my dears. In September, I think about going back to school, and that also makes me think about going back to what I need to go back to. Because how many of you remember any of those classes anyway? If they were interesting, they might come back. Well, of course you would. But I mean, some people just don't remember. It's like, oh, God bless us. Anyway, that's why I like to go back to basics every once in a while. So that's what September will be about. But right now, I want to just tell you the basics of the who, what, and why we exist, what we do, and who we are. What I look at is that who we are is a group of people who are interested in connecting to something greater than themselves, and yet they have all sorts. Would we close those doors, please? That'd be great. A whole bunch of people from diverse spiritual backgrounds. We have people here who have Jewish backgrounds, Muslim backgrounds, Christian backgrounds, agnostic, atheist. It doesn't matter. But sometimes there's this yearning to know that there's something beyond us and that it might actually be interested in us. And so who we are is diverse. Perhaps not in the way that we look, but in the way where we come from, our origins, our spiritual origins. Why we do what we do is to make the world a better place. One person or one project at a time. I say project because not only do we do things within these walls, we also do things out in the community. We'll be building tiny homes pretty soon. We've rehabbed people's homes that could not afford to rehab their homes and therefore couldn't afford to stay there because they were unsafe. We've been doing that for, I think, something like 30 years. For many, many years, there were people who took their vacation to go to places that had been hit by national disasters to build homes from scratch with Habitat for Humanity. In fact, I think they went for 4 years after Katrina. It was that bad, going to the Gulf to just build more homes that had been demolished, wiped away. There wasn't anything there. So that's what I call a project. But sometimes, how many of you have ever thought, I'm a project? You know, I'm a work. Sometimes a work of art, sometimes just a work. You know, it's just sometimes just, it's a person or a project at a time, just to make a little bit of difference. If everybody did that, if every church did that, if every organization did that, did their part, just what they seem called to do, and who's willing to do it, boy, we'd have a world that was a better place, wouldn't we? And how we do that is, and Reverend Don touched on it just briefly, is that we take the wisdom from science, the discoveries, what's been discovered. Actually, I could do a whole year's talk on metaphysics based on quantum physics, because quantum physics is proving what the mystics said. And actually, when a lot of people are talking about manifestation, which is an interesting concept, manifesting, like I'm going to do something. Well, it could be explained by quantum physics. But what we teach here is that God's already given it. Less work, more acceptance. Allowing to happen is a beautiful thing. Allowing to happen is a beautiful thing. Anyway, so the opinions, the discoveries of science, the opinions of philosophy, and the revelations of religion, because when we get all of those together, there are many things that are said the same way, or not the same way, same thing said different ways. And that's actually called the golden thread. There's books on that, on the organized collective wisdom of the ages that Don talked about just briefly. But we apply those things to human needs and aspirations. In short, if you stick around here, if you have a hurt, it may get better. It might get healed completely. The wound will become less. And I think a lot of human beings have wounds. Those go away. And dreams are built. And hopefully you will mature to the place where you discover that it's even more fun to help other people heal their wounds and build their dreams. That's a philosophy, I guess. Maslow's hierarchy. Contribution is the highest form of humanity. So that's what we're about. Anybody in? It's kind of interested? Yay, good. Well, in September, we get to the nuts and bolts. Nuts and bolts. But today, I'm going to wait a minute. I'm going to call up Richie and Kenny because they've built some dreams. And I want you to just hear from them because I could talk about them. I could say, guess what? Somebody built their dream. But why not them talk about their dreams? And so at the beginning of the year, what was your dream? Here you go. What was your dream?
To be homeowners.
To what?
To be a homeowner.
A homeowner, okay. Mm-hmm. And what was the issue? What was the obstacle?
On paper, it looked like we couldn't.
Very much so.
Mm-hmm.
No, thank you.
Yeah, by the more traditional standard, there was not a path forward.
There was no money and no credit.
Well, I love it. So I love this. How many of you have been stopped by evidence? Okay, I talk about it in my own stories, but I love to hear it from somebody else because it's not like, oh, Kathy Ann's special. No, I just use these principles. They use these principles. If somebody says no, go over their head.
Yes. Agreed.
So you prayed.
Mm-hmm. We prayed and just relaxed. Our motto this year is, it doesn't have to be hard.
Now, I love it because this is so big. I was just reading this. This is one of those studies that science does with people. People who try really hard are enforcing the fact that they don't have. How many of you really know you know where the hard button is? Instead of the easy button, you push the hard button. How many of you? This is going to be hard. Okay, so, but you didn't. Yoo-hoo! This is good.
Yeah, we got the home of our dreams. Like, not just a home, but a loft that we've been dreaming about nearly our whole relationship, 14 years.
Yes. And then, because I'm here to teach principle, also, I love this. We get to celebrate people's wins. A win is a win. Yeah. Their win's our win. Why? Because guess what? We are in the same consciousness. Let this get all over you. So that when you have something that says it's impossible, you go, well, you know, Paul said, let my mind be in the mind that was in Christ Jesus. So when something gets hard for you, say, let my mind be in the mind that was in Kenny and Richard. Let my mind be in the mind that was Kenny and Richard. Why not? Really? Okay, that would work. Okay, so one more thing. You intended it to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a huge difference between wishing, hoping, even desiring. There's a huge difference between that and intention. And you have to really start to check out this internal state within yourself. Am I wishing, hoping, or am I deciding? See the difference? I mean, I'm trying to give my voice and my body to help you understand that because it's such an internal mechanism, but it's really powerful. Anything else you would like to add?
I mean, that's one good thing, but there's others. I mean, like, I have a thriving retail business storefront downtown Seattle, and I love saying that.
And in line with what you were just saying, as some of my closer friends know, I've been looking for work for a year because I hated where I was. And it was a Thursday that, with such conviction, I told him, I'm done. And that scared the heck out of me, and it made me so excited. And that Thursday, I declared doneness. That Friday, done happened. A little bit out of my control, but there's someone else involved here. And on Saturday, the other half of the done happened, and I got to where I wanted to be the whole time, and I just had to know and feel that. Like, I didn't do anything. I was just, this conviction just hit hard that Thursday. I'll not forget that day.
To be clear, he got fired on Friday, and he got a job on Saturday, the job he wanted.
That, by the way, called him.
Yeah.
So this is the way the universe works. This is the way it works. We're going to spend September studying those laws so that we can have a world that works for us. We want to have a world that works, but it's going to be easier for us to create it outside ourselves if we start to let it happen inside ourselves. It's very difficult to be of real service when we're in survival. It's really difficult to have compassion for people when we're hurting ourselves. You know, the pain of not having this or not having that. So let's all be here in September. And in the meantime, let our mind be in the mind that was in Kenny and Richard. Thank you very much. Okay, today's talk is, I'm finishing up the theme that we had for the month, which was learning to trust ourselves. It's a book by Tama Keeves. It's downstairs. You can get it yourself. People that were reading it at CBEC enjoyed it. I skipped to one of the, because I do like to just skip to the back. And since I was the last speaker on the book, I got to skip to the back and do one of the chapters that I wanted to do, which was letting our ego, our small self, our habitual conditioned self grow. We're either operating out of our unhealed past or our spiritual magnificence. I didn't make that up. That was from Edward Valhoun. And it's not like it's a bad thing. Ego's not bad. You know, in metaphysics, we gave up the idea of the devil. We're so mature. We're so enlightened. There is no devil. There's no devil. No, but there's an ego. And we can sometimes make ego wrong and bad, so therefore we don't want to acknowledge that we have it. Well, it's not me and my ego made me do it. No, your ego is just your habits. Your ego is just that which is trying to keep you safe. And what's safe to it, safety is what's known. So it will recreate what you've had before and the experiences you've had before, because at least it knows how to handle it. It's not a bad thing. It's a bunch of synapses in the brain. But we are not our brain, and we're not our synapses. We're not our memories. We are that which has them, had them, and can be conscious of them. That's what we are. So we grow beyond these habits, and we acquire a sense of our own spiritual magnificence. And what I loved about Tama Keeves is that she says we grow that way through love. So I'm going to talk about love today and how we just practice love and how it grows us. It's like we are a seed, where we are, this is from Meister Eckhart. The pear seed grows into a pear tree, and a God seed grows into God. We're to grow into our spiritual magnificence, and we water that seed with love by choosing love. By choosing love. Over and over again, we choose love. So how do we start to shift that narrow view of what's good? Because the small self is a small self, and it has a view of what's good for me. Not good, but good. This is good for me, and anything else isn't good for me. How do we start to do that so that we start to live in an infinite field of goodness, more availability? First of all, we let go of our expectations about how love must be. We let go of our expectations about how somebody must love us and what love looks like between them, between us and others, I should say, between each other. So Tama tells the story of being with her father, and her father was the kind of gentleman, grew up at the time, I don't know what happened, but grew up at a time where they didn't talk or express emotions. Anybody have any men in your life that might have been like that? That's just not bad, they just didn't do it. But Tama Tama was on this spiritual quest and this spiritual unfoldment, and she gave up being an attorney, and she moved to Denver. And she was now doing talks, and she was into spiritual growth, and she wanted to talk about it, and she wanted to share her journey with her family. And I know that. I know what that's like. And Dad wanted to have her there, loved to have her there, but couldn't talk about that. So he'd say, this is how the book. Delta flies over the house twice a day. And then he'd talk about other ways of showing up, and planes and trains and all sorts of weird things. And she was so frustrated because she couldn't be herself around him. How many of you have been like that? I mean, I'm like that from my family forever. Do you know I've been a minister for over 40 years and they've never talked to me about it? They're agnostic and atheists. They don't want to go there. They don't even know what kind of minister I am. I mean, I don't know what they're making up in their heads. I'm afraid that they think that they open the door, I'm bringing the baptismal font right through. Like, make way for the baptism. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know. I mean, really, but they won't ask. Don't ask. She won't tell. So anyway, Tama decided that she was going to be the one that loved. And so she visited her father, continued to visit her father, and she talked planes. And she talked kinds of planes. And she said things like, I wonder if United flies overhead. Now, it sounds funny, but that's what he wanted to talk about. That's where he felt comfortable, and she met him there. And what she knew at some level is that even though they were talking transportation, she was feeling and giving out, I love you so much, we'll talk about what you want to talk about. And she felt him giving out, I don't know how to talk about anything else. Thank you for loving me so much that we're having this conversation. I love you so much that you're willing to have this conversation. And then it made me think of things that have happened in my own life. And I had a grandfather that I loved, and I'm not sure why I seemed to be his favorite, but it's maybe because I was into horses and he was into horses and he could talk horses. Nobody else wanted to talk horses, and I was willing to talk horses. And as he got older in life, his life became smaller, and it wasn't what he wanted to have. And he'd get on these stories, the stories that were about what he loved and the time in his life that he loved it. So he would talk about horse logging, and he would talk about the stallion that he trained. And I remember sitting across from him and thinking to myself, he's told me this at least 8 times, and I love him so much, I'm going to listen again as though I never heard it. Love meets a person where they are. I love my husband so much because he loves his father so much, who was also probably like that, like Tama's father, only worse. He didn't know how to have children. He didn't know how to be with children. He probably loved his children, but he didn't know how to express it in any way, shape, or form. And he never came to visit us, and he never came to our wedding, and he never asked about us. So Tim would take his vacation time from the railroad, and if I wasn't hauling him off someplace to Egypt or Peru or something, he spent it with his father working the land, because that was his way of saying, I love you, Daddy. I want to be with you. And if this is what you're doing, I'm going to do it as well. I really wish that I had grasped that when I was younger and still had my mother, because she was into things I wasn't into. No, she didn't talk to me about ministry. She didn't talk to me about spirit, but she wanted to talk about dahlias. She loved gardening, and I'd sort of like go through and say, "This is really pretty." But I didn't ask her where she got them. I didn't ask where she got the iris and what kind they were. I mean, I know she longed to talk about them, but for some reason, I didn't meet her where she was, and I regret it. Sometimes we have to be the one to get out of our small self and not have a conversation about how they don't. Instead, we have a conversation about, I'm the big person here, and I choose love. I will choose to love. That's when we move from our small self to our real self, to our higher self, whatever you want to call it, that which is eternally us, and it starts to feel good. That's when we move out of our habitual thinking and what would make us comfortable, and when we choose love, love will grow us because love changes everything, and it's always a decision at a time. We also get to become a giver. Because as we give, so shall we receive. And Anne Frank said that a person has never become poor from giving. And Tama tells the story, and you could read the book, and I'm the Reader's Digest version, of her mother who was coming from her small self. Tama would fly to the East Coast, but her family never wanted to see her. Like mother was retired and didn't want to drive the hour and a half to see her in New York, so Tama decided, I'll go to see her in upstate New York. She only had one day. It would take an hour and a half to get there by train. She'd have 2 hours before she had to catch another train and come back, and then fly out to Denver. And she said, well, her mother was so surprised that she would do this. You came here for 2 hours? Like, what are you doing? It's like, what are we going to do? How do I have to entertain you? Well, what were you going to do? Well, I don't know. And they ended up that they put together outfits in her closet. Because that's what her mother liked to do. She was a fashionista. And they let go of the things that weren't important. Tama gave her time to her mother, even though her mother was not going to give her time to come and see her. You know, love says, let's love. I'm the one. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to act in a bigger way. Back to my mother, one of the things that you can do to give to others is to simply accept what they have to give to you. How many of you have been given something and you didn't feel good about it or didn't feel comfortable? And I mean, not illegal. I mean, not a proposition, but how many of you have been given something and you don't know how to receive, so you get really uncomfortable and you push it off or are clumsy about it? Yeah. One of the things that you can do is just graciously receive. One of the gifts is to receive. And I'm thinking about my mother wanting to give me bulbs. I don't know what to do with a bulb. I mean, I didn't at the time, I do now. And I didn't have a place to put it, and I had all these reasons. I should have just taken the bulbs. Just taken them, put them in a pot, give them to a neighbor. But my mother didn't have much, and what she did have, she gave me, and I wouldn't accept it. And I regret that now. Become a giver. And sometimes the way to give is to simply be a great receiver. We get to leave behind the small self when we use pain as an instrument of grace, to not avoid pain. There's so much that is painful, so much that I look out and I'm in pain. And yet, one of the ways to overcome pain is to become an avenue of grace. to get outside of my small I hurt, and do something for someone else. How many of you have heard of Anne Lamott? She's an essayist and writes books, beautiful, beautiful stuff. And she wrote an essay just a few days ago after another school shooting in Minnesota. Starts with an M. I mean, I can't keep my M states straight, but anyway. In Minnesota. And she wrote about her being a Sunday school teacher. Did you know she'd been a Sunday school teacher for 30 years? In a small little church in upstate, I don't know if that's the way you call it, Northern California. And she talked about doing the Sunday lesson for 9-year-olds after the horrific school shooting in, and I don't know how to say it, the one in Texas. Uvalde, yeah, Uvalde. Look at everybody going, blah, 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 blah. I know, but there's just the room in the room. It's like, ooh. Sometimes you got to go down to get up. So she talked about when she had been a Sunday school teacher and the massacre in Uvalde had just happened, and she wanted to check in on the kids, and they said, I'm fine. Kind of like you guys. Like, I'm fine. I'm okay. Nothing to see here. And she said, well, what did your school teacher say? Oh, they didn't say anything. They just had us practice ducking and hiding and running. And she said, what helps is to care for and love those people who are light bearers, because when you do something for someone else, you are the light. You are the light. Did you know Jesus said we're the light? Did you know Buddha said we're the light? I mean, two great people are saying they're the light, and yet we can get in such dark depths, but what if we're the light? What if we're the light that's supposed to bring the light to the depths? I love it. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I don't set up camp there. I walk through quickly with my flashlight. Anyway. And yet we can get so down, we don't know what to do. Well, here's what you do. You do something for someone else. So the kids got out the art supplies and they wrote letters to the parents saying, we know how bad it must be. I'm a kid, but I still love you, and I just want you to know that me and my class, we have you in your prayers. I don't know what the 9-year-olds write, but they wrote letters and they decorated them and they folded them, and then they were going to figure out how to address them and send them, and they were so much lighter. They went out and played. They had done something. You do something. And it feels better when you do something, whether it's you physically show up, you physically write letters, you physically call your congressman, I don't know what you do, but you're doing something. I give money because I got more money than I got time. I'm really depressed about people taking away those people who harvest our food. That's my own personal thing. You've got to have your own personal thing. Have a personal thing. And do something. You will get energy out of the doing, not the ruminating, not the awfulizing. You will feel better. I feel better that I'm giving to an organization that does legal defense for those immigrants. Because I can't do it, but they can do it, so I'll pay them to do it. I don't like cleaning house either. So I pay somebody to do it. We leave behind our small self and we become an instrument of grace. Those parents must have felt so good to get something from children. Not our hopes and thoughts are with you or whatever. But children, sending love. Wow. And don't wait to be perfect or do the right thing. Just doing something creates some change within us. Something creates some change within us. Not something, but a change, not just something in us, a change within us. What causes you the most pain is probably what you're called to lean into and do something. Emma Curtis Hopkins says, if you see a job, it's yours. I mean, what would the world be like if we were all participating in making it a bit better? Not just for ourselves, because for ourselves is important. I'm grateful that I've used these principles so that I have the money to give. I'm grateful. I want to make more money because there's more things I want to do. A lot more things I want to do. I've got a lot of causes. My husband goes, I know, because he takes the envelopes out to the mail. Yeah, you're giving a lot. Anyway, so good. He didn't want to do the bills. Anyway, we have a deal. I get the money, he gets the garbage. It's really perfect. Deal with the money, he deals with the garbage. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, also, our smaller self is nurtured into our bigger expression of magnificence when we practice abundance. The smaller self needs more and more and more and more. Our smaller self is never satisfied. It is that hungry, aching need that is a phrase I absolutely love out of the Rose. You know, it's a hungry, aching need, and it needs recognition, it needs love, it needs approval, it needs opportunities to shine, it needs things and events that prove our worth. Need. And guess what? Need produces need. Hungry, ache, and need creates more hunger and more need. It's just the way it is. It was in the Bible. Can I just quote Jesus? You know, whenever I want to just throw out something, I throw a Jesus quote at you. Anyway, so in the Bible it says, to those who hath, more shall be given. To those who hath not, even that shall be taken away. Because if you come from I don't have, guess what? You can only see more of I don't have. People could be showing up for you, loving you, blessing you, appreciating you, and you don't get it because you don't have it inside you. It's a scarcity consciousness. And Joe Dispenza says this, the quantum field responds, I love it, quantum field. See, you can say anything you want. If for those of you that don't want to talk all preachy and spiritual, you just say, the quantum field. I'm working with the quantum field. And it's true. You can call it anything like, you know, big kahuna, whatever. The quantum field responds not to what we want, it responds to who we are being. So when we're being needy, we will create more needy. When we are creating having, we will have more to have, and more will be attracted. And that's why I love the spiritual technique. The spiritual technique of gratitude is why it's so powerful, because you're grateful for what you have. Even if you just start to feel it in yourself for a moment, you're starting to have it and you're grateful for it. That's why there's a step in our 5-step, pattern. It's like we call it steps, but it's kind of a pattern of prayer. And one of the patterns, the last part of that pattern is Thanksgiving, because Thanksgiving is affirming it's done. So it's so wonderful. And Thanksgiving is taught in every major religion. Gratitude. I love it. So what overcomes this hungry, aching need? Gratitude, having, and therefore this sense of abundance. I have enough. Now, this can happen in a twinkling of an eye. How many of you have had one of those experiences like, boof, you realized something and it was different, and you were different from then on? And sometimes it's a gradual waking up. It's you just realize that, wow, I'm not the same way I was a year ago. A gradual waking up. But it's beautiful. And it takes diligence. And it really is asking love to lead, not my fears. Let love lead, not my smallness. Let love lead, not my desire to be comfortable, and not my desire to have them be the way they need to be so that I can be the way I want to be. Ugh. You know, and don't ever say anything to my husband, I mean it. I see your faces. He too has a hard time saying, I love you. But you know what? He really cares about me and he really wants me to be safe. And there's never a time that I do anything that's even slightly dangerous, like even going to the grocery store. Which actually could be dangerous in our country. I ride horses and I chase cows, which could be dangerous. But I could also just be sitting on the horse. There's never a time that I do anything, I don't leave the house without him looking at me and he says, please be safe. And what I know is he's saying, I love you and I hope you come back. Because I don't think I want to live life without you. And I'm not asking him to say what I want him to say anymore. I'm accepting, please be safe. So let's just go within and what is love asking you to accept? And how is love asking you to shift and change and evolve and grow and be and discover? So find that within yourself, and I just speak my word of blessing that that spirit of love, that spirit of truth is moving us and growing us into a greater expression of our essential self, which is love. And yes, there are laws. And yes, there are ways of doing things that will make the universe or the quantum field respond in a positive way. Oh, but the highest working law is love. Father, Mother, God within, lead us in that. And so it is.